Okay, welcome. All right, hello and welcome to the Team Up Together, Expanding Expertise, Championing Excellence and Leadership, or the TUT Excel Cohort 2 Proposal Informational Webinar. We'll start with some brief introductions from our team, and then we'll get right to our agenda. So I'm Arlene Modesti Knowles, the Team Up Together Associate Director based at the American Institute of Physics, one of the Team Up Together's lead partner organizations, and I'll be facilitating the webinar today. Kicking it over to Tremaine.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tremaine Britton. I'm with the American Physical Society. I'm an innovation program manager, and I am assisting today to provide some strategies on preparing a competitive proposal using innovation and design thinking strategies.
And Morgan.
Hi, everyone. I am Morgan Harding. I am a program coordinator with Team Up Together. Glad everyone can be here today.
Thank you. And we are being supported on the program and on today's call by the good folks at Amplify Philanthropy, our grant consultants. So we have a lot to go over today. So I want to make sure you have time to ask your questions. So here's a brief agenda so you know what we're going to cover today. So first, we're going to do a Team Up Together overview, and then we're going to talk about TUT Excel and the funding grant program, and then innovative proposal design by Tremaine. And then we're going to talk about avoiding some common mistakes and then available resources for applicants. Just a few housekeeping rules. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please type those into the Q&A section, not into the chat. And if you have questions about your specific program, please send an email to info@teamuptogether.org and we can discuss it. Please also note that this session is being recorded and will be available after the session. So let me give you just an update on Team Up Together. So the Team Up Together program really is an outgrowth of a research study done by the Team Up Task Force and commissioned by the AIP Board of Directors to understand the reasons for the persistent underrepresentation of African American undergraduates in physics and astronomy. And the work culminated in this report called The Time Is Now: Systemic Changes to Increase African Americans with Bachelor's Degrees in Physics and Astronomy, which we call the Team Up Report for ease. And you can read it online for free with going to the QR code or the website. In that report, the study uncovered 5 key factors that contribute to the persistence of Black students in these fields, which are a sense of belonging, which lets students know that they're welcomed and valued in their departments and in the major, a strong physics identity where they see themselves as future physicists or astronomers, and which can be built through encouragement by faculty and others, and their success as they engage in the activities of the profession, such as research and problem solving. Specific academic support that emphasizes good teaching methods and support that views the students as capable, and personal support that acknowledges that students may be facing extreme financial burdens, as well as other stressors that impact their ability to persist and that provide support to help overcome those stresses. And then leadership and structures that prioritize these students' success. The report also notes that unsupportive environments in physics and astronomy departments and serious financial challenges faced by Black students, as well as the departments that demonstrate best practices in supporting their success, have contributed to the underrepresentation of these students, and that solving this problem really requires addressing systemic and cultural issues and creating a large-scale change management framework. So in an effort to spearhead the change we learned is needed, AIP, the American Institute of Physics, the American Association of Physics Teachers, the American Astronomical Society, the American Physical Society, and the Society of Physics Students came together to develop Team Up Together, which is a bold collective action initiative led by these 5 lead partner organizations to transform the culture of physics and astronomy so that students who have faced systemic barriers, especially Black students, can thrive in these programs, earn their bachelor's degrees, and are prepared to either pursue further study, enter the nation's scientific workforce, or pursue their passions with a scientific lens. And while all 5 of the organizations are developing the program and making significant investments into the program, AIP is taking on the administrative lead and coordinating role for the program. Team Up Together has 2 main components. One is direct funding and support to the students, which we launched in June of 2022 with the Team Up Together Scholarship, which I won't be covering today. And then the second programmatic strand is direct funding and support for physics and astronomy departments who want to partner with us on systemic change efforts that impact the educational experiences of these students. Last year, we launched the pilot Team Up Together Excel program to offer 2-year grants of up to $200,000 to physics and astronomy departments for systemic change efforts that address the Team Up 5 factors that lead to a culture and practice of inclusion and support, and that align with our mission to improve educational experiences and successful outcomes for students that face systemic barriers and unequal access to educational opportunities in physics and astronomy, particularly Black students. The grants offer an opportunity for these departments to either scale up existing efforts or launch new initiatives that accelerate our outcomes and become models of success. Last fall, we selected these 5 grantees, which are varied, and Lamar Physics is in Texas, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, RIT, North Carolina Central, and Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts. These are all very different institutions. One is an HBCU, some are large, some are small, some are research intensive, and some are not. So it's really varied for this program. These institutions combined, however, received more than $900,000 in grants last year, and we are on track to do even more this year. So Team Up Together Excel Cohort 2 objectives are building on momentum. And so we invited institutions to apply for this funding that have a proven track record of promoting equity and addressing barriers impeding their students' success, especially with a focus on African-American students. So this funding really is to scale up an existing departmental effort that has been successful in graduating underserved and underrepresented physics and astronomy majors, particularly Black students, or to develop new evidence-based initiatives that will lead to increased persistence and production of physics and astronomy bachelor's degree earners. Again, particularly initiatives that address equity gaps for African-American students. Funding can also be used to address gaps in infrastructure that are directly impeding the advancement of physics and astronomy bachelor's degree earners. And applicants will have to really make a strong evidence-based case for this. The second major objective is to create replicable models of success. And as grantees go about their work creating systemic change, we want to ensure that the success strategies as well as lessons learned are shared among the broader community so that other departments and institutions can begin to adopt those strategies as well. And so we're asking grantees to participate in convenings and conversations about their work, as well as create a case statement about what does and what doesn't work in the success model as part of their final report. I want to make you aware of some important dates and facts about the award. There is a question period that is open currently and ends on October 7th. Questions that you may have about the funding opportunity may be sent to info@teamuptogether.org, and we'll answer them in the Q&A document, the living Q&A document that I'll talk about a little bit later. Proposals are due on October 11th. And if you're asking, is that at 5 p.m.? What time? It is at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will notify applicants of awards on November 19th. and that will include any requests for modifications if necessary. And we will distribute the funds by December 20th, 2024. And recognizing that very little happens at the end of the year, the award period will be from 12/31/24 to 12/31/26. So it's a 2-year grant. We have 1.1 million for this program, and the awards given will range from 100,000 to 200,000. And given that, we estimate 7 to 10 awards. When you are doing your budget, please be realistic about the budget given your proposed activities, and please round it to the nearest $10,000. Now, going on to the narratives components. Last year, there was a lot of variability in the quality of proposals, and we recognize that that could be due to institutional capacity for proposal writing support, as well as faculty experience with proposal writing. Therefore, this year we have created a template with word counts and point values clearly stated for each section in order to promote equity within the proposal process. We also ask a set of questions that do not have to be answered specifically, but should be addressed in your responses. Project narrative components are worth 70 points. The budget is worth 20 points, and the institutional commitment is worth 10 points. However, all parts are required, and if they are missing, the proposal will not move forward. The background and needs section shows that you understand, supported by data, any existing systemic issues that might exist at your department preventing equitable student outcomes. It also allows you to showcase your department's existing commitment to Team Up's recommendations and Team Up Together Excel objectives. The project design describes the work that you intend to do to address those issues and work toward systemic change. Please provide details and describe how your intended project or program or remedy would address the Team Up 5 factors. Include a timeline and departmental resources that will contribute to the project, as well as any foreseen potential challenges. For the evaluation plan, share how you will collect data about your project so that you know if it's having its intended outcomes and you use it to iterate on the project. I suggest that you connect with educational researchers at your institution or other colleagues who are educational researchers to support you on the data collection. I highly discourage you to try and collect the data yourself in terms of student qualitative information or data. For the dissemination plan, explain how you will share information about the work that you're doing to inform other institutions and faculty. Note that Team Up Together will provide some opportunities for that, including an upcoming departmental convening in 2025 that grantees will learn about. Also describe how this project will be sustained beyond the funding period. For departmental capacity, please just describe the department's capacity to carry out this project or program or your activities. And then for institutional support, describe your institutional support, including faculty, staff, administrator buy-in or participation, as well as their commitment of resources needed to carry out the project. This will be scored along with a letter of institutional commitment from the chair, dean, or a higher administrator, affirming the institution's commitment backed by real resources. Key personnel. So just provide a brief bio for each, how they're qualified for the role that they're playing in the project, and what their roles and responsibilities will be within the project. Please don't put too many key personnel. I think probably around 5 would be enough. Up to 5 would be enough. And the budget is straightforward. And there's a second worksheet on the budget template, which asks for budget detail. Please just explain what the budget costs are for and make sure that the detail and the budget requests are in alignment. So that's the narrative as well as the budget and letter of commitment. I have a little bit of extra time, so if there are some questions about anything that I've said so far, I can go ahead and answer those. I don't see if there's any questions. If you all can participate in the chat, please mention where you're from in the chat. Okay, I do see some questions. Yes, we haven't moved past narrative components just yet. We can provide a description of previously funded programs in the Q&A. There will likely be additional calls for proposals after this time. Indirect costs will be 15%. Awesome. Great. Well, we have a little bit of extra time, so I am going to turn it over to Tremaine at our lead partner, APS, to provide some guidance on innovative design.
Thanks, Arlene. Hello again, everyone. I'm Tremaine Britton with Innovation at the American Physical Society. Prior to working at the American Physical Society, I spent many years as a higher education professional, directly working and leading academic advising, recruitment, and retention initiatives at NC State University. I'm happy to be here today to share with you a different way to think about approaching your proposal before kind of jumping in and getting started. Next slide, Arlene. So let's talk. I want to share a little bit about what it means to be innovative. And a lot of times when we hear innovation, people will normally think of, okay, to innovate means to do something new. And I always add new-ish because it means that you can completely come up with something completely new that hasn't been done before, but also you can take something that's currently been done and improve it. And that's also seen as innovation. The other piece with innovation is that it's not just new or enhancing something that already exists, but it also has to create value and be of constructive use. A lot of times we all have great ideas of how to solve a problem, and sometimes we don't necessarily focus on the value of it for the people that we're offering it for. So that is an important piece of innovation as well. Sometimes when I'm, speaking, especially, in the academic area, a lot of times people will want to pause and say, hey, we're not the business world. We are not doing technology. We're not doing entrepreneurship. So I don't want to talk about innovation. But innovation is not just important and necessary in the business world, but innovation is a way that you create a valuable framework to make sure your proposal or your new program or your new idea has been thought well through, and also has answered a lot of the questions that are necessary to make sure it's going to be effective. So I asked you in the 10 minutes that I have to speak with you to not focus on innovation as that's business and entrepreneurship, but strategies that you can utilize in any way for program design as well. And the reason that we have a unit now at APS Innovation is because our focus is that in order to continue a thriving physics enterprise, we have to look at what we're doing And are there ways that we can enhance it and make it better so that we can continue to have a thriving physics community? So this is important, not just in the business, but also in academia. Next slide, Arlene. So I'd like to start out talking about what I typically see in my role with APS. I am the program manager for our Innovation Fund, which is a grant opportunity for our members, but also even in my background working in higher education is that typically we have a problem. It could be enrollment, it could be retention, it could be we don't have enough staff. And we'd have this problem defined, and then we might talk about some ideas. And then it's like, all right, go, jump in and do it. And I've seen it a lot of times in my current role and previous role where either higher administration or, a leader is like, all right, we have this problem. Here's a way to solve it, and just go and do it without really thinking about all of the aspects that are needed beyond funding, all of the people that are needed, and also not thinking about the audience and who we're developing something for. What is it that they need? So again, typically I see people jump in with the idea and they hit go. And then the consequence of that, a lot of times is that, especially with a grant or a new program, is that a couple of years later, a lot of those concerns and challenges, they pop up later, and it in some ways it can be too late to make changes, or it's going to take a whole revamping of the program. And so I'm here to hopefully inspire you to take a different approach. So as you are thinking about the problems or the challenges that you have, developing a thorough plan so that when the grant comes to an end or it's time to look for new funding, that you've got a well-oiled machine. Next slide, Arlene. So I want to share with you the design thinking process. So prior to the other slide that I shown about kind of we have a problem, we have an idea, let's jump in and do it. Design thinking makes you dig in a little deeper. So if you think about your interest in getting this funding, the clarify piece is, yes, we have a problem and we're not just going to hit go. We're going to think about who is our audience. Who are we solving the problem for? And not just who we're solving it for, but what do they need? What do they desire? As opposed to just saying we have a problem, we're going to solve it for our faculty or our students. It goes a little bit deeper to see what do they actually need. Next, Arlene. And then with ideate, once you have the clarify stage, of course, you can generate ideas, which I had in the previous slide, but the ideas are not tied to what we think are the best ideas to solve the problem. It's tied to, all right, our audience, how do we fulfill their needs? So that might make you change your idea of what you think needs to be done. The problem might be the same, but you might have to alter how you approach it once you consider the audience needs. And then into the develop piece. It's not just develop and go, but it's also looking at how do we take that idea and make it reality, but also are there other solutions, and critiquing the solutions that you have, pros and the cons and what that looks like, and the viability of it. How can we maintain this? Do we have the resources beyond grant funding? If this is an amazing idea and it works and it solves our challenges and our problems, how do you keep it going? So thinking beyond the grant piece and thinking long-term, which is also very important. And then last would be the implement piece, and not just doing whatever it is, the idea that you've come up with, but having a way that you can communicate the clear value to your audience and your partners. Because again, if you have a great idea, a different way to do your program or run your department, if other people don't know about it, how are they going to engage with it? How are they going to get on board if they don't understand or they're not hearing the value? The other piece with communicating that value along the way, and what I've seen with programs that have grants is, as the grant is ending, they then start to think about communicating that value so that they can get new funding. And they haven't thought about it along the way. So it's important to think about what's your value in the beginning, and you already are communicating that, and you have a plan that other people are seeing while you currently have grant funding. It may attract people to say, hey, they're doing something really great over there. We might need to think of how we can support them in the future. And it doesn't put you at the end trying to figure out how do we keep this going. Design thinking to the pieces with the audience. If you tap into how people feel about and they're connected with something, then you're going to have an impact. If you connect with what the students need, what the faculty needs, what the institution needs, it's going to be impactful as opposed to here's my great idea without including other people that are going to be affected in that process. So I'd like to take just a little bit of time and talk to you about value proposition. And I encourage you, along with that design thinking process, that once you also have your problem, before you kind of jump in and decide on how you're going to solve it, is to think about what is the value of the people that are going to be involved, your audience. And you might have multiple audiences. It might be students, it might be faculty, it might be support staff, it could be the university. But I encourage you to do this for all of your audiences. The value proposition is important because it is your way of convincing the people that you're writing the grant to, your partners, the people that are going to be engaging with your program. It shows them why it's important, how it's going to solve their problems and their frustrations. So with the audience, you want to start with, you can, next slide, Arlene, their needs. So what do they need? And that could be a variety of things. For students, is it scholarship money? For faculty, is it more time to provide service to the department as opposed to research? But you need to think about who your audience is and what they need and what's going to solve that problem there. And then you want to think about the pains. And when I say pains, you want to think about their frustrations. What is frustrating them potentially being a part of the program, or maybe not opportunities that aren't available? Think about the frustrations and the pains of whoever your audience is. It could be budget constraints or something like that. And then you also want to, next with the audience, you want to think about what do they want? So don't combine the needs and the wants and pains together, but the needs, what's frustrating, and then what do they want? What type of experience would make someone want to say yes to this new change in our department? And so to get the value, you're going to take those needs and you're going to develop your solutions. All right. And so needs, that's how you develop your solution. And then for their frustrations and their pains, what type of experience, how is your program going to be designed so that it's not frustrating anymore? How are you going to relieve those pains? What does it look like if I participate in this major? What does it look like if I'm a part of this department? That is important to communicate in your proposal plan, but also with the people that you are engaging with as well. And I also want to note with the value proposition that you can have multiple value propositions and think about what is the promise. If people participate in the program, what do they get? If someone changes their major to physics, what do they get? If someone doesn't want to stay in the major, what are you providing with that program based on their needs and their wants? And lastly, I'd like to share a strategic planning canvas. That could be a good, also with the value proposition, I would say start one with value proposition and then come to the strategic planning canvas. There are lots of questions on here. I encourage you, if you would like, to take a picture of it so that you have it. This will also be shared with everyone as a recording, but it's a great place to start, not only with this proposal, but with any changes that you're looking to make in your work, in your department. And this is adapted from the business model canvas. And I have highlighted in green the value in the audience is because if there's nothing else that you focus on, it is very important to look at what are we trying to solve and what does our audience want? How do we communicate them? How do we keep them engaged with what we're doing? How do we retain them? But also noting what is different about what we're doing as opposed to another university or another department. And also include your key partners in the process. Having a collaboration is very important, so you don't have to do it on your own, and think about what are the things that they can provide to you, collaborate with you on, and not try and do it all by yourself. The important piece I like to add about partners is that it doesn't just have to be the people in your department. There could be other expertise outside of your department that may help you provide a service or change up how your department looks. And so it's important to have diverse expertise as well as a part of your proposal. So I hope that this has been helpful. I am definitely over my time and I'm happy to answer additional questions. But one thing that, again, is important about the value of what you're proposing is, again, fall in love with the problem that you're trying to solve and not focus so much on your solution and why your solution is best, but think about what is the best solution to solve the problem. Thank you for this time. I look forward to answering questions if that'll be helpful. Also, if you would like to have further conversations about applying the value proposition and strategic planning canvas to any work that you're doing, you can email me at innovation@aps.org. As a partner with Team Up Together, we are happy to support in any way the physics and astronomy community.
Thank you so much, Tremaine, for giving us really a different and reflective way of thinking about how to approach our programs and proposals as we think about submitting these proposals. So I am going to now pivot to sort of avoiding some of the common mistakes that we saw last year in the proposal process. So one of them is not really making the case for feasibility in your proposal, not reflecting on whether or not your proposed program or activity is actually feasible given, let's say, the capacity or the resources or what have you in the institution or department. Is it executable in the real world? For example, if you wanted to create a joint program with another institution, but you haven't had any discussions with anyone at that institution, so you have no idea maybe what administrative hurdles might be, you wouldn't know if that program is feasible or not. So really taking care to understand whether or not your proposed activity is actually feasible and executable. Not being data informed. Tremaine just talked about, understanding the problem. So having an understanding of existing systemic issues within your department or institution that affect the education or outcomes for students, particularly Black students in physics and astronomy, would be really important to show in your proposal. For example, you might find out that other STEM departments in your institution have more student diversity than your department, which could then lead you to dig into why that might be. So we want to see that your proposal is data informed, that you understand your local context and you understand the problem from an evidence-based standpoint. No evidence of institutional support. The faculty are not involved. There are no strong letters of support from leadership. We've had a few applications from institutions that have had a lot of faculty, but only one or two are involved in any capacity in the project. And really, that doesn't show us that there is going to be systemic change, that there's not enough buy-in from the department, from the faculty on this program. So it's really important that you show that there's institutional support, not from just the administrative side, but also from the faculty side. A lack of student input, or conversely, the program's success rests solely on students. So the Team Up study and subsequently Team Up Together are both student-centered programs. We highly value the input and the perspective of the students that we're serving. So it's expected that departments will include students in the design of their project. This all really speaks to what Tremaine just talked about, thinking about your audience. What do they need? What are their wants? What are their pain points? And the only way to really understand that is to have conversations with students. And I've learned that firsthand. The way we develop this program is also to include students. So it would be expected that students would have contributed to your project plan. That said, programs that place the entire success of the program on student labor will likely not be reviewed favorably. And we have seen that in the past where the students are expected to do everything and the faculty are not really doing anything. So that's showing us that there really isn't a systemic change. Students are transient, they leave. And so what is really changing in the department? And also we're putting extra burden and labor onto students, which is not going to support those students going forward educationally. And we also want to see faculty commitment. I want to see that there are faculty in the department who really are on board with this program and willing to contribute to the program in whatever ways. Not everyone is going to be an administrator of the program, obviously, but are they committing to the work? So that's important. We've seen unfocused design. So we've had applications from people that proposed way too many things for the funding that was requested. And for the faculty capacity to do, hoping that something will stick. And that was just too unfocused. We could not review that well. So that won't work. Instead, we suggest that you propose 1 or 2 robust programs that will bring about departmental and organizational change. And that leads to the next thing, which is not addressing systemic issues. We want you to articulate how the proposed activities will contribute to systemic changes that better support the undergraduate students in the department with a focus on African American students, leading to reduced attrition and increased degree attainment. And so articulate how the department will change as a result of your work. And finally, a budget that only supports a faculty salary will likely not review well, as it really doesn't address the systemic change or sustainability pieces that we really want to see. So we would suggest that some significant portion of the budget should be supporting the program activities that directly impact students. And those just a few of the common mistakes that we've seen. And hopefully this will help you as you move forward in your proposal development. So just wanted to tell you about some resources. Obviously, this webinar is a resource for you, and we look forward to hearing your questions. But as mentioned earlier, we are providing a live-in Q&A document, which is linked in the RFP. And so you can send your questions to info@teamuptogether.org if they're not asked here today. And we will add responses to those questions that will inform all applicants. We will not post applicant-specific questions. And if you do have specific questions, we'll reach out to you about that. A recording of today's webinar will be linked in the Living Q&A as well. So if you want to refer back to this information, you want to refer back to Tremaine's slides, and as you're thinking about your programs, you can do that. If you do have a question, before sending your email, I would ask you to check the Q&A to see if an answer to your question already exists. And if not, then please do feel free to send an email to info@teamuptogether.org. So that is the presentation for today, and we will now open it up to questions. We will respond to your questions in the Q&A, and we'll go from there.
Arlene, it looks like we have one outstanding question now. How do we provide data? Can we attach them as an appendix or a link to the website?
Yes, you can provide the data as an appendix to the budget and I'm sorry, to the narrative. Yes. If you have tables or things like that, you can certainly submit those. Other questions? Don't be shy. Have we just been that thorough? Okay. I'll give it a few more minutes because maybe people are still thinking through their questions. Can you use funds to support student activities as well as course buyouts for faculty? So yes, you definitely can use funds to support student activities as long as they are in line with the Team Up Together objectives and mission and goal to promote the persistence of these students and successful outcomes for the students. And you have to make that case. Course buyouts, same thing. We probably we may be able to cover course buyouts, but again, you need to make the case as to why and how that will help lead to the outcomes that we're asking for. So that's not a no, just you have to make the case. In the chat, can people note whether or not they think they might submit a proposal? We're looking forward to reading these proposals. How about a stipend for people outside of the college, a local high school teacher, for example? That would certainly be within the program guidelines, again, as long as the overall proposal leads to the project outcomes. We're really looking forward to receiving your proposals. We like innovation. How innovative is innovative?
I can pop on if that helps.
Yes.
I don't, when I think about it, I don't think it has to be anything far reached or so completely out of the box. It's more of, it's a new idea. It's going to provide value to you and your department and your students. I think that's what's most important, not that it has to be, this big idea. But that piece of the value, but also, as Arlene was talking about, is that it's feasible and it's sustainable. I think those are the key points there to emphasize that feasible, sustainable, and again, that it's providing the value that your students need and that they want.
Yeah. And to add on to that, if you can make the case for why you're taking that particular approach, I think it's important to do that in your proposal. But we like innovation. We like for people to do something different, because far too long people have been doing the same things and we've not been getting a different outcome. So let's celebrate innovation. As long as you can clearly articulate why you're taking the approach that you're taking. Feasibility is certainly important to consider. And you can work with other people outside of your institution. You can work with people outside of your department if you need additional capacity and resources. Additional questions? These grants are up to $200,000. So I think that's pretty good grant size to get something really important going. Let's see if I can share some additional information. So someone had asked earlier about what some of the other grantees were doing. So Lamar has created a rigorous research and mentoring program for underserved students. RIT has developed paid leadership positions within a department that simultaneously empower students to become change agents. They're providing funding for students to travel to scientific conferences to build up their physics identity and participate in research posters. The University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign is establishing a bridge for students from two-year colleges to successfully transfer to four-year colleges, which is this is an innovative idea, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that plays out. North Carolina Central is building on their innovative approaches to recruiting and retaining students in their physics degree program, such as community building, strengthening their research and internship experiences, and they're making curriculum modifications that enhance student preparedness for advanced study, as well as developing science entrepreneurship activities to increase career readiness for those institutions. And then the Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts is developing professional development workshops for physics teachers in school that serve a high number of diverse and African-American students. They're realigning their courses and restructuring their curriculum to support more students, and develop more on-campus activities to build their student belonging. So those are just a brief overview on some of the things that those institutions are doing. Any additional questions? Sure. Well, I think if there are no additional questions, we can end the webinar. If you end up thinking of questions that you have, again, send them to info@teamuptogether.org, and that was just put in the chat. So thank you so much. And we will get to them. Please, again, we look forward to your proposals. If you run into any questions or concerns, let us know, and we're here to support you. Thank you so much.